In earlier parts of this video, we saw how banks can make money or credit out of thin air, and why the Calvinistic belief of predestination means that we have this love of money. Just to recap, the Calvinists became the Huguenots, who became the Pilgrims who settled America, and of course who are a large number in Britain too. And what is interesting is that the Calvinists and the offshoots, the Southern Baptists and so on, all believe that if they are going to heaven, if they're in the group that is going to heaven, then they will be blessed materially, and thus everyone in the world can see that they are in the group that is going to heaven. If you are poor, sick, or many other afflictions, then you are not one of the elect, and you are therefore going to hell. And that is essentially why Americans have no social security or Medicare, because if you are going to hell, why would you bother wasting money on? To show you just how far this religious zeal has gone out of control, I'll show you a small bit of an interview with John Perkins, who is known as the economic hitman. He's written a book all about how America quite deliberately goes into countries and destabilizes them. He has turned around though, and has now got is now doing everything he can do to correct the mistakes that he's made. And again, you'll see this a little later on in this video too.
We turn to someone on the inside who decided to speak out. And he is John Perkins, has written the book Confessions of an Economic Hitman. He came into our studios to talk about his former work going into various countries to try to strong-arm leaders into creating policy favorable to the U.S. government and corporations, what he called the corporatocracy. John Perkins says he was an economic hitman. And you work for?
I was recruited by the National Security Agency, the one that's in the news so much today because of spying on people. And I was tested by them, recruited by them.
What do you mean you were recruited by them?
Well, while I was a senior in business school and at Boston University, they came to me and suggested that I take their test. I had connections through my wife with people in the agency, and they put me through a series of tests, personality tests, lie detector, several days, and concluded that I would make a good economic hitman. And they also discovered a number of weaknesses in my character, which they could use then to hook me into the business. And then I ended up working for a private corporation.
Why didn't you work for the NSA?
Because these days it's not done that way. Nobody wants to be able to connect the dots. So the NSA, the CIA, these types of organizations often recruit economic hitmen, and the jackals, the assassins, the 007 types. But they will recruit us, maybe train us, and then turn us over to a private corporation so that you really can't make the connection. So that if I were caught at what I was doing in one of these countries, it would not reflect on our government. It would only reflect on the corporation that I worked for.
And who did you work for?
I worked for a company called Charles T. Main, a big consulting firm out of Boston.
And your job?
Well, I started off as economist, became chief economist, and my job, really, I had a staff of several dozen people. My job was to get them and for me to convince these countries to accept these very large loans, to get the banks to make the loans, to set up the deal so that the money went to big U.S. corporations. The country was left holding a huge debt, and then I would go in, or one of my people would go in and say, look, you owe us all this money, you can't pay your debts, give us that pound of flesh. The other thing we do, Amy, and what's going on right now in Latin America, is that as soon as one of these anti-American presidents is elected, such as Evo Morales, who you mentioned in Bolivia, one of us goes in and says, hey, congratulations, Mr. President. Now that you're president, I just want to tell you that I can make you very, very rich, you and your family, get several $100 million in this pocket if you play the game our way If you decide not to, well, in this pocket I've got a gun with a bullet with your name on it, in case you decide to keep your campaign promises and throw us out.
We'll explain actually how that plays out, because it's not really in this pocket.
No, it's what I'm saying is that, you know, I can make sure that this man makes a great deal of money, he and his family, through contracts, through various quasi-legal means. And I can also, if he doesn't accept this, you know, the same thing is going to happen to him that happened to Jaime Roldos in Ecuador and Omar Torrijos in Panama and Allende in Chile. And we tried to do it to Chavez in Venezuela, and I'm still trying, that we will send in the people to try to overthrow him, as in fact we recently did with the president of Ecuador. Or if we don't overthrow him, we will assassinate him. And these people all know the history. They know that this has happened many, many, many times in the past.
Explain what happened to Torrijos, for example, in Panama, and what did you have to do with it?
And so now we've reached the point in our history where the planet is being destroyed, all for the name of $1. And there are 20 or 30,000 children dying every day when they could have food or water, and it would be so easy for us to supply them. So what are we to do? We need to alter our beliefs about money. We need to put money back where it should be, as something to assist us in our economic development. Of course, yes, we need to have another look at money and just see what it is. I'm just going to read this out. It's called The Meaning of Wealth. Most of us associate wealth with money, our savings, our investment, our homes and other forms of financial capital. But did you know that the word wealth comes from the Old English words weal, which means well-being, and the condition, which taken together means the condition of well-being. And so what we need to do is to take a slightly different viewpoint of money. In fact, probably quite a different viewpoint of money. Instead of saying money enables us to do things, we need to look at it and say, actually it's money that's stopping us doing things. For example, if you want to go to the pictures, the movies, then you'll take money. You'll need money to get in. But supposing you said to yourself, well, the movie's free, isn't that great? Off I'll go. So we could set up an entirely different system using money not as something that stops us doing something, but rather money puts a wall around things, and we need a certain amount of money to climb over the wall to get to do the things we want to do. So we need to change that viewpoint. Now, there's a lovely piece that I've got here from a website about genuine wealth and equality. And it says, what is wealth? Most of us associate wealth with money. Our savings, our investment, our homes and other forms of financial capital. But did you know that the word wealth comes from the Old English words weal, meaning well-being, and the, in a condition, which taken together means the condition of well-being. Did you also know that the word economic comes from the Greek oikonomia, meaning the management of the household? So when have you heard of a report from an economist or a business analyst talk about the conditions of household living and management? Instead, we have become immune to strong language like the word mortgage, which means in French, literally, a pledge unto death, or what I call a grip of death. How we have become twisted with the meanings of words. So let's have a look at some of the other possibilities that we could use to create wealth for ourselves. Well-being, that's certainly a wonderful thing that we could do, and what stops us from feeling well-being? Often it's money, because we are constantly chasing after dollar after dollar after dollar, and it's all to essentially pay the banks. We are in this trap created by ourselves, by humans, because nature or God did not create money. It is totally a thing that we as humans have created. And as I mentioned earlier, it stops us doing things rather than enabling us to do things. So there are various systems that others have been thinking about. You have the Ithaca time dollars. You have various money being based on different things other than the dollar, which can move up and down depending on how the bankers wish to see it, or the players in the share game. To us living on the planet as real people, the value of the dollar doesn't really mean very much. It's almost as though we have two forms of money. We have the money that we use from day-to-day points of view. We have the money that we use on a day-to-day basis, and we have money that is created in the form of credit for buying houses or shares or similar activities, which are not really part of our day-to-day existence. So there are time banks, time community banks, and of course we have to get rid of the notion of competition. We are all one. If you look at quantum mechanics, quantum science, you will see that they are talking about humans and objects as just being energy. And the energy is slowed down enough so that it forms a solid and seems to be solid to us. But in fact, all solid things are 99.99999% nothing. So we need to say we are one humanity. And we have this force going through us. The force is often referred to as the life force, or prana, chi. We Christians tend to think of the life force as God, or life itself. So we'll have a look at some alternative systems of banking and keeping tabs on what we owe others in the form of time, usually, or energy. I've seriously thought about creating some banknotes with the, instead of having a dollar on them, having an herb, or as one of my friends suggested, perhaps a jewel might be better. It certainly sounds nicer, doesn't it? We can have 10 jewels. Or, but others have suggested using time as an indicator, because when you go to buy a length of cloth, you'll end up with a yard or a metre of it, and you know quite precisely how much that is. Whereas with dollar, its value varies from day to day, or even gold. So we need some way of defining money much more precisely, and an hour or a unit of energy seems to be one way we can do that. And of course we have to get rid of interest, because interest, again, Calvinistic prior to Calvin, you could not loan money with interest. It was punishable by death, and you were not allowed to be buried in church land. It was just seen as a total no-no. So what happens is, with interest, the banks loan you money and you have to pay them back the capital plus interest. And where does the interest come from? Well, eventually it means that the money supply has got to grow to enable the interest to be paid back. It's just an ever-increasing diabolical system, and it needs to be changed. So I'm setting up various websites called Connecting Me, Connecting Light Workers, and Making a Beautiful World. The Connecting Me website in particular is going to enable... The Connecting Me website in particular will be used so that we can trade with each other. There's a section there for you to put in what your skills are and what your interests are, and where you live, or an email address. And if you want a particular service, then it is easy to type in the service you want, and we'll try and get the closest person, local areas in the local area, and we'll try and get the person closest to you to be able to help you. In a way, this, of course, is very similar to what Google and similar things are doing, but there's always the advertising and the money behind this, and what we need is a system whereby we can exchange time with each other and not have banks involved, and equally not feel that we're getting ripped off. But this brings up another interesting point. There is the gifting societies. I'm quite keen on looking into this more. The Incas didn't have money. Everyone just worked there without money, and they gave a few hours a day for government type purposes. But a gifting society just simply means that you're giving everything away. So if you go and have a cup of coffee, then the coffee proprietor, the proprietor of the coffee shop, will allow you to have a cup of coffee. In fact, he will enjoy making it for you because he likes to make coffee, and cakes and so on. And the farmer who supplies him with the food also does that in a similar way. Because, in fact, nature is infinitely abundant. Everything we need is on the planet. It's just here for us to use. And again, it is money that is stopping it being distributed. So let's have a look at some ways of making a better planet. Thank you.
What you're going to hear about is a next generation of rewards for more than consumer spending, and I know that's really going to land well with people here. A couple of quick things about change in general. One, it's not that big a deal. When we went from the Earth is flat to the Earth is round in our thinking, the Earth didn't change by one molecule. We just took a fresh look at things. Change can be very fast. The 3,000-year-old paradigm, man will never fly, ended in 8 seconds and 120 feet at Kitty Hawk. That's pretty fast change for a 3,000-year-old idea. So we're going to look at the old approach to money and how quickly it can change in the modern era. So, whole agricultural era, 3,000 to 5,000 years. The whole industrial era, 300 to 500 years. There's this accelerating pace of change. The whole computer era is literally mature in 30 to 50 years. Hit it. So it doesn't take a rocket scientist, right, to say, hey, it could be the end of the decade when things shift. So the biggest thing to get about change is you can't get the change you're looking for, what's next, by just doing improvements in the current paradigm. So we didn't get to paper currency by improving gold coins. We didn't get to credit cards by improving paper currency. We're going to have to do something new with money to get into the next economics. And we're not going to have a new global economy without a new kind of economics. Now, I only put that up there to scare you. This isn't going to be an economics lecture. And in fact, what's possible today, based on the abundance we're going to be talking about, is something that's business-led, market-based, profit-driven, but not trickle-down. So it's beyond the whole old left versus right thing. The big disclaimer, this is a whole weekend workshop in 6 minutes and 40 seconds. You're not going to totally get it as you walk out of here. But you might have an idea that something new and exciting is possible and that there might be a role for you in it. So think about what's going on in the economy. Everything that it takes to produce and distribute goods and services is rapidly improving. Technology, labor and management skill, infrastructure, raw materials and energy. But the quality of life and standard of living for individuals, families, and communities is rising and falling. Also, it takes less raw materials, less energy, less labor, and less capital to produce these goods and services, but we're not seeing a commensurate rise in the standard of living, shortening of working hours, and less detrimental impact. It's because the economics underneath is screwed up. That, you know, like when you have a bad premise, like the Earth at the center of the universe, you know, it just doesn't work. It doesn't add up. So now, our founding premise of our current economic model is scarce resources and unlimited wants and needs. Well, what's off about it? Think about food and world hunger. Food's not a scarce resource. Food's an abundant, renewable resource. There's no unlimited wants and needs for food. The consequences of overeating are obesity, poor health, and low self-esteem. So, whether it's safe, clean energy, it's already an abundant, renewable resource. Education, high-quality education, abundant, renewable resource. Healthcare, abundant, renewable resource. If you could pay for it, you could get it. Housing, nobody ever said we haven't got the resources to get everybody housing. Boards, nails, electricity to run saws. Money issue, money issue, money issue. With a secure retirement for all our seniors, we've got everything seniors need. Food, shelter, clothing, it's all abundant. The challenge is, how are we going to pay for it, right? So let's talk about the money side of things. Here's how messed up it is. Businesses need customers, people lack purchasing power, but money was invented to bring buyers and sellers together. Communities have work to do. People have perfectly adequate skills for child care, senior care, better student-teacher ratios in the schools. Money was invented to bring work to do and people to do the work together with, you know, businesses need goods. Why I put that there? If aliens landed and they saw how we did money, your businesses want to sell more, your people need the stuff, all that's missing is money, and you invented the money, they would say there's no intelligent life on this planet, and they would get back in their ships and leave. So now, when you don't understand how something works, you look for who or what to blame, like evil spirits cause disease. So who do you blame? And this is for all of us, because you're all blaming somebody, and it depends on your lens. Do you blame the rich or the poor? Do you blame politicians, big government, or the unions? Do you blame foreign competition or foreign workers sneaking in and taking our jobs? You know, the truth is, it depends if you're on the left or the right. Some blame the military, some blame family values, some blame gay people, some blame, you know, lousy architecture. And a lot of people blame human nature. All right, slow down for just one more second. So the human nature thing, you know, evil, greedy human nature, well, yeah, in a world of scarce resources, you know, how would you be? So consider that we're all in the same boat together, business and consumers and employees and employers. It's hard to get your head around that, but blame isn't going to get us there. Blame doesn't get the job done. So what's the alternative? Well, wake up to the fact that we're mostly chasing money. We're not teaming up and cooperating to get stuff done. We're chasing money. So what might be a good alternative? Well, to rethink money. So incentives are powerful. Wages and benefits are powerful incentives. So are grades when you go to school. So are trophies and medals and things like that. Now, the biggest incentive going today, loyalty rewards. So rewards for consumer spending. Banks give them, grocery stores, hotels give them, you know, gas stations give them. Everybody's giving rewards. But what kind of a behavior is consumer spending to reward, right? Why don't we think about rewarding some other things? I love that quote by Maslow, right? If your only tool is a hammer, every problem looks like a nail. How about rewarding young people to stay in school, get better grades, and graduate? How about rewarding every type of volunteerism? How about rewarding wellness activities that lower our cost of healthcare, like quitting smoking, dropping weight, yoga, meditation? How about rewarding people to get their kids to the dentist? So how would we fund all these incentives? Isn't that the big question? We're having trouble funding things as it is. Well, this is how we're going to fund it. Just understand this metaphorically. If you work at the airlines based on their excess capacity, because excess capacity or wasted business wealth is everywhere. You work at the airlines, your best perk is free or discount flights. You work at the university, free or discount tuition. You work at the YWCA, free or discount membership. You work at a restaurant, free or discount food. So there's tons of excess capacity, and I'll say why in a minute, but imagine pooling that excess capacity into a community virtual warehouse and using it to back this next generation of rewards, like for healthcare, like for volunteerism. So a sample transaction will help you get your heads around it. So Sally Thurston, that works at a restaurant, gets rewards for doing healthy activities. She can take them and buy a $100 membership, half cash, half health bucks at the YWCA. She can go online to see how her rewards are being earned and spent, and her employer's happy, because if the employer just throws in some empty restaurant tables, some empty airline seats, some empty college desks, but gets low-cost health benefits for the employees, isn't that a win-win? Isn't that a win for businesses and a win for employees? All right. So lots of things to reward, as I mentioned, incentives for students, employee benefits, volunteerism, wellness, plenty of goods and services to reward people with, and I'm going to show you why in a minute. This is what people don't get about economics. Competition is a great thing. If you open a competing restaurant across the street, doesn't it become a destination? Doesn't it improve quality and short consumers and hold down prices? On the other hand, 20 pizza joints, 100 coffee shops and bagel shops, and every hotel and motel has fine dining and a coffee shop. Pretty soon, what you have is a massive explosion of wealth along with downward pressure on market share, prices, profits, and wages. And if wages are the way, hold on just a second. If wages are the way that people go out and enjoy a piece of the pie, then you get this ever-growing economy with individuals, families, and communities not having the purchasing power they need. So right before this was a slide that said innovation is very fast in the global economy right now. It doesn't matter what kind of business innovation it is. If you attach a profit motive to something, it's all over the world overnight. So what we'll suggest here is the world could actually turn on a dime, and you could find yourself thundering into the new economy in no time whatsoever. All right, so just to wrap it up, if money wasn't such a hassle, wouldn't we be enjoying more art, recreation, leisure, travel? Wouldn't we be spending more time with families? Isn't this a common need of people, rich and poor, business and labor? People would love more time with families. Everyone I know would like more time for spiritual pursuits. So it's like a huge win-win to capture excess wealth and make it available to everybody so we weren't going so crazy chasing it. So the biggest challenge, well, everybody's so busy putting out economic fires in their lives, it's hard to look at a long-term economic fire prevention program. You were supposed to read that and laugh. All right, so now there's tons of ways you can help. Pick up one of my cards or give me one of your cards, because you can go out to these websites at the bottom, dualcurrency.com, our commercial website, some good information. The other one, dcsrewards.com, is about the beta site, the beta test we just launched with the Bioneers Conference. People were earning eco-bucks for volunteering, and they're able to spend them at about 10 restaurants in town. We're not going to get a whole lot further without a lot of funding, and this isn't going to happen in the world without. So, what do you think of the class now? Half empty, half full, or are we just about there? Thanks, sorry I ran over a little.
Each individual person has been created to love together.
Though one of the most cash-poor nations in the world, Mali is rich in many ways. Solidarity, generosity, and care and attention to the whole society, not just one's immediate self and family. Dhamma is a gift economy which sustains community and culture, dignity and values. It is mostly propagated through a strong, though informal, women's social network. It includes most everything: a meal for a hungry neighbor, change for bus fare, a bracelet, all the needs of a woman in her first 40 days after childbirth, sharing the harvest from the fields, or bathing the offspring of another who is off selling at the market. Dhamma is not based on exchange or equivalence between giver and receiver. Instead, the receiver passes the gift on to someone else. Gift giving holds the expectation that just as you provide for others, someone else altogether will care for you or your family. Never just a material object or service, gifts are a pillar of social connections, connecting members directly and indirectly. Passed back and forth, gifts spin webs of relationship and community. Dhamma sustains and celebrates the value of sharing and is a reflection of what Malians term humanness. In Mali, the cultural norm is to give away as much as possible, with the greatest reverence reserved for generosity. The social pressure towards constant giving discourages people from hoarding for themselves, and so reduces disparity. Malians understand that community is only as strong as its parts. So only by all providing for each other will all survive and thrive. When it works properly, goods circulating in the gift economy can sustain everyone. Dhamma serves as the social safety net that the state has neglected, such as a working healthcare system, social security for the elders, education, and childcare. Given the damage that the global economy is enacting on all life, the continued strength of the gift economy is imperative for human and cultural survival. The large-scale solidarity and gift economy in Mali continues to resist the market economy as it celebrates the value of life and interdependence, putting human relationships over profit.
Hi, I'm Elle McPherson, and I'm here outside the UN Plaza, and I'm supporting the In My Name initiative, which is to encourage people to stand up and to ask the government to be accountable, so that we are supporting the fact that they are supporting their goals. So that's why I'm here.
Time, space, and matter. Matter seems like a good place to begin. The solidity of the world seems totally indisputable. As a fixed thing that you can see and touch, your body is also reassuringly solid. But beginning with Einstein, modern physics has assured us that this solidity is a mirage. After all, the body is made up of atoms. These atoms are particles that are whirling at lightning speeds around huge empty spaces. And the particles aren't material objects. They are fluctuations of energy and information in a huge void of energy and information. If you could see the body as it really is, you would see that 99.9999% of it is mostly empty space. And the 0.00001% of it, which you see as matter, is also empty space. The matter is just an illusion, an artifact of our perceptual experiences. As you sift through this very solid-looking material body, you only have to go so far before you end up with a handful of nothing. This is a scientific fact. The question is, what is this nothingness? What is this empty space that makes up everything in existence? Because it's very clear that the basic raw material of the universe is that it's not material. The essential stuff of the universe is non-stuff. Because an atom, which is the basic unit of matter, is not really a solid entity. It's a void. But is this void an emptiness? Or could it be the womb of creation itself? Could it be the source of life itself? Is this non-stuff, non-matter that makes up the entire universe just emptiness? Or is it thinking non-stuff, thinking non-matter, that curves back within its own self and creates everything in existence, from matter to energy to time to space? As you dissect through the body, the various layers of organs, tissues, cells, molecules, and atoms peel away until at the subatomic realm all that remains are bundles of energy vibrations. The nerve receptors in the body are switching stations that can take energy vibrations and turn them into touch, sight, sound, and so on.
I'd like to leave you with these thoughts. Thoughts create things. We create our lives from our thoughts, from what we think about. And then people reflect back to us our creations. So if we're creating a happy life, others will smile around us. So think beautiful thoughts, and you will create a beautiful world. And listen to John Lennon singing Imagine. Thank you.
Imagine there's no heaven. Sees if you try. sky. Imagine all the people living for today. Imagine there's no country. It isn't hard to do. Nothing to kill or die for, and no religion too. Imagine all the people living life in peace. You may say I'm a dreamer, but I'm not the only one. I hope someday you'll join us, and the world will be one. Imagine no possessions. I wonder if you can. No need for greed or hunger, or brotherhood of man. Imagine all the people sharing all the world. You may say I'm a dreamer, but I'm not the only